Today we're talking about the intersection of the kingdom of God and the business world. And I think you have a great perspective. I'm so curious to hear your perspective on this, just knowing your depth and your the way that spirituality and your faith influence the way that you run your business. Pretty profound and pretty cool to hear the stories from your dad, obviously with my friendship with him, and just from around talking to you and different things. I think there's a lot of conditioning right now. I say right now, maybe in the last couple decades as well. Certainly the Christian world in which I grew up in, of if you're really passionate about your faith, if you're really passionate about the Lord, if you're involved in your local church and you really want to make an impact for Jesus, following him and making disciples, there's a inertia, a subliminal messaging, I would say, that I've talked to, I feel like, many people about, but certainly experienced in my own life, that would push people into considering full-time ministry as kind of like the elite way to practice your faith and to go into really making your life all about Jesus. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, there's a lot of need for full-time ministry people in the world, no doubt. But for me, I found it to be a big tension in my life because I didn't necessarily feel like that was my path. I felt like I did have a business mind. I felt like there was this pull to run my own business and to be in the business world and to go to college, kind of get the normal business degree of sorts. And anyway, I don't think that I'm alone in that. I think that there are a lot of passionate Jesus followers out there who may not fit into the traditional or may not feel like they fit into the traditional ministry roles. And yet there's a lot of voices in their life, in college, in campus ministry, even back in youth group at Summit, where I was at here in Central Arkansas. You know, there was a definite push toward ministry, and for good reason. You know, like there's a beauty in that, and there's some great things about being in full-time ministry, and God can use that in incredible ways. I would love to hear you talk about your journey with that. Maybe you can hit on some of your faith journey along the way. But with that foundation in mind, have you ever felt that tension yourself of full-time ministry versus what people would consider as secular work, if you will, kind of the sacred and the secular divide? And if so, how did you process that along your journey?
One of the more fundamental things that have shaped me in who I am today, as you know, are my parents.
Right.
And you're very familiar with their journey. So for those who are listening, my dad has been around the world multiple times working directly with refugees, in particular the Muslim and Arab world after the Arab Spring that occurred in 2012.
Yeah.
But prior to that, in 2005, he started his journey, and he was overseas in India for a time. Thought that's where he wanted to be, and said, this is strong. He knew. It was so interesting. It was so very clear. And I remember these conversations with my dad very clearly, that he was just like, God's calling me to India. And so that's where we're going to go. And I don't know how, but I know God's plan is good because he is good. And so we're going to go to India. And I think my dad really thought that Indians were particularly the people group God had called him to be going to. So he'd just gone through Perspectives, I think was the program that he had just gone through right before going to India, or right after going to India. And it really changed him in his life and the way that he viewed the world. Right. And he just said, I know now what I have to do, and God's calling me to these people. Well, as it turns out, when he went back, and you know kind of that cool story of like they didn't know how or where they were going to go and how they were going to pay for it, and then just one cool thing, a door opening after the next, and then the next thing you know, they were in India. Right. My mom, my little sister, my dad.
And he was going there as a professor.
Professor, yes. Teaching psychology.
Right.
And working directly with the graduates in the doc program at the University of Mysore. Okay. I don't think he knew that really what he was going there for was not Indians, but actually Iranians. And when he got there, I think he was very surprised by that, but then found this overwhelming peace when he was with Iranians and did not feel that there was a closeness to Indians when he was there. And so he just felt as he drew into the Iranians, they drew into him. And not only that, but God was preparing their hearts, and he was doing all kinds of things, giving them dreams, giving them visions, showing them a man of peace, and feeling that and expressing that to them, and like hearing Bible verses in their dreams, just the things that you just can't explain were continuing to happen. And then when my dad came back from that journey, he just said, that's who God has built and designed me for. I am to go to Iranians. I'm to go to the Middle East. I'm going to go to these Muslim and Arab worlds, but particularly Iranians are who God has placed me to be on this earth to minister to. And like, so I took that, and I'd been, in other places, in other countries too. And I was like, well, that's what I need to start thinking about. And that's how I need to frame going to school, going to college, living life. That's what I need to start doing, is thinking about like, okay, God, like, who am I here and who have you designed me to minister to? Mm-hmm. And in that time, like, I had been, since high school actually, working at a sign shop. And I'd come out of high school as a welder. I got all my welding certificates and things like that. So I was like fabricating, welding, working in this blue collar world with a friend of mine that it was fun. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was just, for lack of a better term, like, I had a lot of fun. And was just thinking to myself, like, this is just a stopover until I'm done with school. Mm-hmm. This is all just going to be done the second I get out of school, I go somewhere, I do something I want to do with my life. Yeah. So this whole time I'm in college, I'm spending this time at UCA, the University of Central Arkansas, and the refrain was always like, where am I going? And who are the people that God wants me to be with? And so I'm strategically thinking about and separating the sacred and the secular, right, like you're saying. Right. And never thinking that never the twain shall meet. Or I'm never going to go and live in this blue collar world. It's completely separate from how I look at the sacred.
Interesting.
So fast forward, I'm still there like 8 years later, working in this sign shop. School's over, and I'm still there. Yeah. And I'm still with the people that I call quote unquote blue collar, having bumped over, bebop to Ukraine, headed over to, Eastern Europe. I've gone to India. I've gone to Brazil. I've gone to Mexico. I've gone to these places around the world. Still not thinking about work in its separate life over here. Yeah. And then fast forward to dating my now wife. Right? We were long distance, and I was still working there. She was going to finish up school and had more school to go. So I was like, okay, I think I can just grab this job here, call up to Northwest Arkansas, transition to Northwest Arkansas pretty quick, and find a job, and then kind of from there get into Walmart world, or like, what they call consumer packaged goods world, where there's vendors supporting Walmart, there's Walmart there, there's 2 or 3 other Fortune 100 companies, and that'll be like what I do, until I find out what it is I'm supposed to do. Man, it was so ironic. I got up there, and I started meeting all of my wife's friends, and their husbands or spouses that are working for Walmart, successful in the vendor world, making way more money than I ever was, just, making peanuts, working at a sign shop. Mm-hmm. And the whole time I had this like elitist mindset, like, man, I am so much better than these blue collar people. Like, I deserve this, like, a job in corporate America that pays well, so my wife doesn't have to work if she doesn't want to, that like I can grind and rise to the occasion of, like, level jumping the corporate ladders and things. And it's so interesting, man. I spent 5 years. I had over a dozen interviews, Walmart, several more at other vendors, a couple at JB Hunt Logistics, a couple at Tyson Foods. All these massive places where everybody's like, yeah, go apply. You'll do great. Never once got a job. Never once got a second look. Yeah. It was just like, door closed, sorry. Yeah. And I'm just sitting there reeling, because I'm just like over this blue collar thing at the time. And so I finally like broken down. The company I was with, they had just sold, and they were going to close their doors because they were just, done with the sign shop. I did not want to go any further. And biking had just taken off in Northwest Arkansas. I'd been riding and racing bikes for a long time. I was like, this is easy. I love this stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, it turns out that I did get a job in the biking world, but it wasn't like directly working with like bike industry specific stuff. It was active transportation networks. It was infrastructure projects that required me working with philanthropy groups, high net worth individuals, elected officials, city staff, the input of cities, and then building these little projects, these greenway projects that were going to move people, pedestrians, by walking or biking. That was a small taste of like the corporate games, and you hear about it a lot, like the bureaucratic red tape and all the things that the games people play in those white collar industries.
Right.
And man, it was an eye opener for me. I was not geared for that. I wasn't designed for it. I failed miserably at it, and it was just like a small taste of what it was going to be like in corporate world. And finally, after I got let go there and started to search out things on my own, the refrain was just like, hey, Ben, blue collar world. Hey, Ben, I could hear God just being like, well, you need to go explore this. And as I drilled down and explored all that stuff and got closer and closer, it all ironically came back to starting a blue collar company. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do this, man, unless I'm the owner and like it's scalable and I don't have to deal with blue collar people. Because I just felt like there's still this entitlement I had where I was like, I'm better than them and I don't have anything to do with them. Fast forward to the day I opened my doors and I had begun to market, work with, get back into the blue collar world, start hiring and recruiting. And I bring all these good people in over time that God hit me over the head, man. And he was like, hey, Ben, you remember what I made you for now? He's like, you've spent the last 15 years in the sign industry working with, ministering to, building rapport, having instant trust, loyalty, respect for blue-collar people, because you actually are one, believe it or not, despite what you think. And look what I've given you. And I was just like, those are the people that God's called me to.
Wow.
Right there.
Wow.
I thought I had to go chase them around the world. I thought I had to go to a faraway country in the 1040 window, and those were going to be my people.
Right.
My people are in my backyard, and I work with them every day. And God was like, hey, Ben, you're on a journey right now, and your Nineveh right now is the blue-collar world, and you're running as far away from that as possible.
Yeah.
Not only did you have to spend 3 days in the belly of a fish, you had to spend 15 years thinking about it pretty hard because you're pretty thick-skulled. And so finally, I am like, okay, I'm going to Nineveh. And as soon as I embraced that I was going there, to that blue-collar world again, the doors, like not even doors, but the floodgates just opened for opportunities for the gospel. Healing and transforming people's lives who never had a chance. Showing and presenting love and care and attention to a historically underserved population of our own country. And everybody just assumes that people in the trades are all church-going. They're not. It's not even close. And they're underserved, they're underreached, and I think God just said, Ben, man, you are a light in the dark places here. This is why I've made you for this.
Wow. Wow. That's beautiful. I am hearing, obviously, influence of your dad and, your family of origin and having been profoundly impacted by your parents as well. In my own personal journey, I can't help but think about his approach to his work and his ministry, and how even with them moving to India, even with all the work he's done in Iran and his heart for the Iranian people, it's been so integrated with what the Lord has hardwired him to do, as well as a professor. Yeah. And integration is the key word that I hear in your dad's story, and I hear you hitting on as to where you have kind of come around to understanding your hardwiring and your particular people group, if you will, particular sweet spot of letting the love of God come through your life in all areas. But you mentioned different chapters of that journey, different chapters where maybe you viewed your work as a separate thing than your ministry. I heard, back in high school or in college when you were working at the sign shop, like I heard you say, okay, that was just really fun, Would you say that there was a period of integration at that point in your life, and then you kind of got off onto a different path of disintegration? Seems like a strong word, but that separation between the sacred and the secular, or do you feel like it was, and then you got back onto the integration side of things, or do you feel like it was pretty all disintegrated, if you will, until the moment of truth in the past five or so years of you coming to grips with this new path forward in life, this new direction, this self-discovery that you've had? How would you describe that journey?
Well, I always felt I was integrated. And that's why I remained, because I felt the value that I was providing. My thought was I can raise the stakes and provide that value in like a different setting, where I can take all of those tangible skills that the tangible ones that I've learned, and then the ones that are innate, and then bring those to a higher, basically income bracket is what I was looking for.
Interesting. Okay.
And so I always knew that I had built rapport quickly, had never had problems with people in the blue collar world, seemed to always be a confidant of them. And a funny refrain I've heard in my life over and over and over again from people in this world was, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but
yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, this must be where I'm supposed to be, because like there's something about me that is like disarming, I guess would be the right word, where they just don't feel like they have to be someone they're not.
Yep.
They can express to me a thing that they've got going on, knowing there's no judgment, and knowing at the end of the day that they're still going to get out of me the same level of like care, performance, whatever it is, to help.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think ever since I really was in that world, it was always that.
Yeah.
It was always just like, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but man, this thing, and you're like, oh, okay. And then it just there's a bond that happens, and the output of your workers goes up, the IQ points go up, the things that you're getting from them go up, and it's not like you're not even pushing them hard to do that.
Yeah.
You're just giving them the feelings of, you don't do this because I told you to do it. I want you to be a thought partner with me. And when you treat people with that kind of level of respect, you'll get out of them a lot more, because they feel valued.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the gospel. I think that's part of like flourishing and living life. I'm not here to just like beat people down or tell them like, do this because I told you to, and it'd be something really silly.
Sure.
That doesn't seem to make sense. It's like, I'm not going to give you arbitrary work or do things that feel arbitrary for the sake of, either asserting power or because you're the lowest man on the totem pole.
Yeah.
Everybody has a seat at the table.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And it's reminiscent of something another concept that they were talking about at a conference that I was at recently, actually, talking about this very topic of the sacred and the secular. And actually what the story that's coming to mind they shared was this story of, I believe it was NASA, back when the space missions were really a big deal, and they were trying to get to the moon. And I think it was President Reagan, who came to the NASA headquarters and stopped a janitor in the hall and said, what do you do here? And he said, Mr. President, I'm putting a man on the moon. And it's that mentality of everybody has a part to play. It's a beautiful story, and it's such a touching reminder of like, there is dignity in every part of this plan, and getting that why that vision cast correctly allows people to understand where they fit, and gives them respect and dignity in that. And I think that was something that NASA at the time did really, really well. And obviously we succeeded in that mission of putting the man on the moon at that time. I would love to, I guess, jumping off of that, I know that your story is probably not unique. I can speak from my own journey that there's been a period of time of trying to figure out, where, Lord, do I have that unique place in your story, in your kingdom, in your like, what is my highest and best? I love the term highest and best more than like a lot of phrases in the English language. Honestly, that's one of my top phrases, because it means so much to me. It's like pushing people to that highest and best, and once they find that place, it's like there's flourishing in all areas of their life, right? How would you counsel somebody who's in that wilderness years, the running? Maybe they're running from their Nineveh. Maybe they're in the belly of the whale. Maybe it's not even that. Maybe they're just innocently, seeking the Lord about these things and going, I'm confused, or I'm a little burnt out in this current role, or like, I'm trying to figure out, who are my people? How am I designed? How am I inherently hardwired? And how do I engage in that way? What would you say to someone like that, based on your own experience?
I'll just listen to them. I don't know if I have much to say about it.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you sit down with people, they are able to articulate as they get an opportunity to talk about themselves, where maybe they never had an opportunity to talk about themselves. And they will begin to uncover those things that they start to realize about themselves that probably are true. Mm-hmm. I have a guy I'm taking through leadership right now. And I asked him, I said, what things are you good at? And he goes, honestly, man, I don't know. Nobody's ever asked me that question.
Such a common answer. Yeah.
I don't know. Nobody's ever given me the position to even think about that.
Wow.
And so I said, here's your homework. I just want you to ask people, what am I good at? No ego. You don't have to do it so you're boosting your ego, but you need to know, but so you know how to be most effective.
Right.
So what is it that you're most good at? And if you're surrounding yourself with people who care about you, and maybe people who are in tune with the kingdom and in tune with the Spirit, God gives them a word. God gives them oftentimes. My mom is really, she's such a lovely lady. And one of the things that's really cool about my mom is she always seems to have like the word that needs to be said at the moment in time that needs to be said to the somebody that needs to hear it. And she just it'd be like in a grocery store. She'd walk up to somebody and say it. Or like she'd say, I'm going to go to this lady's house and I'm going to say a word to her. And it's like, whoa, how do you know to do that?
Yeah.
And it's just that she's so in tune with what God wants and has hardwired her to do and be, that sometimes can fuel a lot of those conversations. Because not everybody's good at doing the thought experiments themselves.
Right.
I'm kind of a mind where I can reverse engineer a lot of that, but it took prompting. So for me, I'd like to know if that person is there. I'd say, well, what do you think you're good at?
Yeah.
If you don't know, why don't you know? What do you love to do? Like, what is it that if you were put in like a work environment, what things would you be really good at, you think?
Right.
Why do you think that? And it's really just asking. It's almost like just taking inventory. And I wish there was like a really straightforward answer. Like an answer, maybe it feels a little cold.
Right.
And the other part of that too is like, I don't know when your journey's going to end, and I don't know when you're going to find the oasis in the desert.
Yep.
I didn't know,
right.
And I asked the question for years, but when it happened, it was instantaneous when I knew it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's more just having people walking in the desert with you.
Yes.
And just holding you up and saying, "Hey, we're almost there." More than it is trying to find, seek these answers out. Maybe it's not ready yet. I wasn't. I knew that like I can look back now. This is an example. I just needed a little bit more polished before I could start my own business. And the 4 years of like working in the bike industry and working with those people and learning how to like be a good orator and be a good public speaker and having to speak in front of large groups and learning how to handle different objections that were very difficult objections to handle, and learning how to write an email, learning how to follow up, and learning how to listen. I needed 4 years of that training before I was able to really be that like complete version of like who I needed to be for the moment. So God's preparing. You think about my dad, he was like 50 when he went on special mission, right? Like it may be that you still have more to learn, and just be okay that with that moment of like, okay, yeah, this is hard. Yeah, 15 years in blue collar world, not what I wanted. It was not ideal. It just took me that long to realize that's what I was designed for.
Yeah.
But just keep going and keep moving forward in that. But find people who will rally around you in those moments and just speak life into you.
Yeah.
I don't. But as far as like a firm, strong like step 1, step 2, step 3.
Right.
I don't know if I have something that's really built around that more than it's just this is kind of the kingdom, and the people in the body of the kingdom is we rally around people and we support and lift up so that they become a more complete picture of like the gospel message of Jesus Christ, right? Like we're a more strong union together of what it looks like to live in Christ and live in the kingdom when we're all together than one person trying to figure it out on their own. And so it's more of just a rallying cry to just say like, I'm really designed to support you. And I don't know what that looks like right now, but we're doing it together, and that's life, like life together.
Yeah. One thing I've heard you say that I think is really cool is, in so many words, I'm going to paraphrase this, but I think it was on one of the other episodes, but you said, essentially, your life, whatever you happen to be doing at the time, it revolves around seeing transformation happen to people. And so I think that's a great way of saying, a lot of all of our lives should look like as kingdom people, is seeing transformation happen in people around us. And some people would say, oh, that's discipleship. That's discipleship you're describing the process of discipleship. You're describing what Jesus called us to with the Great Commission. How would you say, obviously, some people may jump to, the professionals, the church staff, or the pastors, or the people in ministry are the ones who are uniquely called to that endeavor. I think you and I both would agree that that's not the case. I think we all have a kingdom mandate to go and to be that transformational force in people's lives and to seek their good and to seek developing them. How does being a business owner uniquely position you to do that? How do you see that? How do you see discipleship happen in your life these days as a business owner?
You have to create intentionality behind that. You can't just like run and own the business without getting to know your people. And when you're intentional about how their life is outside of work and care more deeply about that, the work comes. And I think we have that backwards so many times. Or the dysfunction I've found in a lot of blue-collar work is because a lot of them bring their family in to help them.
Gotcha. That
we're a family. We're all just a big family here. And it's like, that is actually harming people. It's not a family, because like, how often do you let your family get away with stuff? How often do we sit there and give them like a pass if they're not performing well, if they show up late every day? Well, he's family, I can't get rid of him.
Right.
It's like, we're a team.
Yeah.
We're a team first and foremost. In that team, you will have these benefits.
Right.
And you will have me helping you become the best person you can be for your family. And that's a byproduct of being part of this really strong team.
Right.
And we want A players. And in order to be an A player, what do you need to have? Well, things outside of work directly impact your work. And a lot of people, probably our parents' generation, say, we keep your work life separate from your home life and just shut up and grind, right? That's kind of the common, it's like, you can't, I don't care how hard you try.
It's a misnomer.
You cannot keep those from integrating. They just happen. So I reframe a lot of what I tell my guys, and I say, look, you cannot be healthy outside of work and be healthy inside of work. It cannot happen. What do you need to be healthy outside of work? What does that look like for you? And 9 times out of 10, if they're a parent, they say, I just want to be a good dad. Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
Yep.
What does that look like? Tell me about your finances.
Yep.
And tell me about your faith.
Yeah.
Tell me about your family. Tell me about your fitness goals, your health goals. And we're taking a man or woman and then saying to them, look, I care about you holistically because that's how Christ loves us too. And like, we're not just a byproduct of our work. And I don't ever want you to be like, well, I'm a plumber and that's my identity. Your identity, first and foremost, when you're a child of God, too, you're a father and you're a husband.
Yep.
Those are the things that I care more about than you being a plumber. That can be a nice third or fourth.
Sure.
But right now, if you're not healthy there in those parts of your life and growing or moving towards some change, it's probably going to be hard for you to impact things here at business. So let's work on this. And guys are often afraid to say that stuff because blue collar world, man, and really it's just guys, right? It's just like ribbing each other and like saying a lot of negative things, calling each other names, and that's kind of a term of endearment. And I'm like, I'm trying to get rid of that and dismantle that. That's not okay.
Right.
And in doing so, we're replacing that with encouragement. We're replacing that with, this is really actually how you should be viewing life. And I think that when we talk about that stuff, it begins to spark a deeper conversation about Jesus. It begins to spark a deeper conversation about peace and not chaos, and trauma and healing, and that it's a journey and that it's hard and you're not wired to do it because it is hard and we don't want to do it. But if we do it, on the other side of that is greatness. So I'm always of a mind that I can't separate my belief and spiritual transformation journey, and they can't either with their work. And I'd say they're more closely linked than they ever thought.
Yeah. Wow. Do you have a story from the last 2 years or so that comes to mind that sticks out of a really cool moment where you see a bit of transformation in somebody or in a group of people in your business as a result of you bringing discipleship, that mentality, the kingdom of God, the authority of God into your business? You know, you could name it any one of those things. But
Yeah. I had a guy started working for us. He'd been there so he just actually would have had his 1 year anniversary, or did just have his 1 year anniversary in September. So September of last year, he came on board with us. One of the things that he mentioned was, am I going to have to do a drug test? And it's like, everybody's going to have to. You know, you're going to have to do a drug test. And he's like, well, I might need some time, but if I got my card too, like, is that okay? You know, and this is a whole nother conversation. It's like, this is common in the industry. Yeah. Probably common now more everywhere. And I was like, you know, I don't think you should. I think it's a means. It's not a means to an end in and of itself. I think it's just a way to numb things that are really going on in your heart and your life right now. And just over a short period of time, I found that this man was playing Mr. Mom. He and his wife were separated, divorced. She was way up in Missouri, 2.5 hours away or something. And then he was having to pick up his daughter on the weekends, bring her here, take her to daycare, fix her lunches, do all of her, stuff for her, just the whole 9 yards. And then he'd just take her back, and then it's back and forth, back and forth. It was a hard existence, man. I could see it was wearing him out. And one day we had our quarterly our monthly one-to-ones, doing our quarterly rocks was our first assessment with him, as you're familiar with EOS and traction.
Of course, yeah.
And one of the things he said that was really interesting was, he said, you seem like a guy that, like, I think you believe in God or whatever, And I was like, yeah, I believe in God or whatever. He goes, yeah, I can see it on you, man, like, for sure, like, you like that. That's pretty cool. I believe, like, everything's kind of God, like, I don't think God would ever make mistakes, and so everybody's sacred, and that's cool, like, and we're all, like, part of the universe, and the universe, like, speaks to me or whatever, And I was like, this is very, like, spiritual talk, but the life that he was living was just, it felt like chaos, and he knew it was chaos, and I didn't say anything about it. I just said, yeah, I think the main difference, though, is that, like, I would tell you I followed Jesus. And then I said, I'm an apprentice of Jesus. And the funny part was, he goes, whoa, I've never heard anybody, like, say it like that before. It's so interesting. Like, what do you like, listen to stuff, or like go to church, and maybe even go to church together? I was like, you could, yeah. They said, tell you what, I'll give you some podcasts. I've been listening to this guy lately. I really enjoy it. This is John Mark Comer, and he was doing a series on Apprenticeship of the Way. And this guy I was outside in the parking area, and he pulls in, and I can hear on his, he's listening to him as he pulls up, and he comes out, and he's like, dude, this stuff is so good. Wow. I've just been listening to this nonstop. Wow. And he looks at me and goes, I think I get what you're trying to say, man, and, like, I've been thinking a lot. I've got some stuff coming up. You mind if, like, I talk to you, like, the next couple of days? I was like, yeah, that's fine, man. Yeah, sure. Yeah, whatever you need. And he came back. It was like a Friday. No, it was a Thursday. I remember this is Thursday. He came up Thursday, came up after work. He was like, he had a pep in his step. He's like, hey, do you mind if I take off work tomorrow? I was like, well, I mean, your calls are full. Like, is there anything you need? He's like, man, I just talked it over. We talked till like 3 a.m. in the morning. I just talked with my ex-wife. I told her, like, our daughter doesn't deserve to live in a split household. I did it growing up, and I hated it. You did it growing up, and it was not fun. And I just feel like God is telling me that, like, we need to get back together. I want to, like, move you back here, and we need to live together for our daughter, and she needs to be in a household that hears about God and prays together. And I just want to come pick you up and live together. And she was like, okay, well, my lease is up on Saturday. Can you pick me up then? And so he literally, like, grabbed a truck and a trailer, and they drove up Friday, moved her out of her apartment, and then moved back in together and got married again. And they're expecting a child, like, any day now.
Oh my gosh.
And so they had just done that so quickly, man. And it was just this, like, God was like moving so much in his life and just like taking leadership, taking ownership of his family's life. And dude, we just talk about that stuff all the time. And his demeanor changed about everything. And I remember, I'll never forget, it was so cool. We had this big job and we had to dig 14 feet down. Like a normal digging depth for us is like 6 feet at the deepest.
Yeah.
And that requires shoring and a lot of other stuff. And it's dangerous when you get that deep. You can have a collapse.
Yep.
You know, things can happen
Yeah.
really quick.
Right.
And he looked at me, he goes, before we get started, man, can we just pray about this one, dude? Because I'm nervous. It's a big job. We've got a really big excavator. Like, let's just pray nothing happens. And I was like, okay. And so I prayed. He goes, thanks, man. I'm going to do this for every job now. And I was like, okay, all right.
Wow.
And just that, it was just such a sweet time, man. And it's just been remarkable to see his life just being transformed little by little. And all in due time, because unfortunately, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, he came to me. They'd visited her family up there way in northern, kind of northwest Missouri, and was like, man, I got to tell you something. He said, I didn't want to ever leave this company. I wanted to be a GM. I still love you guys, but I have to move for my family to be closer because we need all the help we can get. And I've got nothing here.
Right.
And so he's like, before the baby comes, we're going to move. And so they've been up there now for like 3 weeks.
Wow.
And yeah, it's devastating. I hated it because he was such a, like, just as a friend, but even as like someone who like spiritually was like, you know, on a real great growth. And, you know, we had a lot of opportunity together, training for leadership. I felt okay. Like, there's peace. It was like, okay, it's okay, Ben. And I trust that God will continue to do a great work in his life. But yeah, it's like then the question goes, like, and I told my business partner Scott this. I was like, I'm just devastated that he's leaving. And he sent a reminder. He said, you know, if everything goes under tomorrow and we lose everything, it'd have been worth it.
Totally. Wow.
I was like, okay. And then all bets are off. Like, you don't care anymore. Like, you stop caring about like the revenue, the daily revenue targets. And you stop caring about the little things that like used to keep you up at night. And you just go, okay, God, like, yeah, I can clearly see you're at work here. And I see it so clearly now. And I don't miss an opportunity to call it out and give everything to God.
That is, what a story. That is really cool. And to those who are on the fence of and questioning whether or not God works in the business world, or that God is present in the business world, or that their life would be less effective by going into the business world. I think that's a testimony of, if you are truly sold out and bought into this idea of people development, another way to say discipleship, you know, through the kingdom lens, like, God is no less present there than he is in the church building.
That's right.
You know, and perhaps you could make an argument that because you spend 40 hours a week there and 2 hours a week at church, that there's a even greater opportunity in some cases to impact people fundamentally. That lasting transformation. He can never unsee what he's experienced at your company, like the last year or whatever. Like, he's going to take some semblance of that everywhere he goes. Like, it's kind of like once you've seen the fire or experienced the fire, you can never be satisfied with the smoke. I feel like he's going to take that with him. I just know that as someone who's come out of a company like that as well. The company I worked at just prior to this fundamentally impacted me so much as developmental to my growth, my maturity. You know, that I will take that DNA wherever I go. That makes me really excited. I think that's a great inspirational thing for so many who are considering their place in the business world. It also makes me think of Chick-fil-A, having had experience in that world as well. They describe themselves jokingly, or maybe not so jokingly, I don't know, as not a chicken company, as a people leadership development company.
That's right.
You know, and I'm hearing you say that.
That's right.
About what you and your business partner see your enterprise as. And I think in the eyes of God, that is ultimately what our business endeavor should be about. You know, the people are so much more important. And once you get, it's like first things first, The second things get thrown in.
That's right.
And the second things are, like business success, profits, whatever.
Right.
If the Lord, gives that favor.
Yes.
That's beautiful. That's really cool.
One thing I tell every person that I interview is I say, I want you, if you become part of this team, you're going to get so much training and you're going to have such a good experience here that you're never going to want to go anywhere else, but you're so equipped that you couldn't get paid to go anywhere else in the world, but you'd rather stay here.
Right.
You'd rather be here because of how you're treated.
Mm-hmm.
And guys buy into that. I mean, and girls, anybody who's everybody can come to us. And this is the same picture I paint for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I really firmly believe that we are the best company for culture because of how we care about people and try to bring them to the kingdom. And I think people often, we live in such a microwave culture. Yeah. Like everything here is like, it's got to be microwaved and instantaneous. I need it now, I need it now, I need it now. We think that life change and transformation happens now.
Right.
It happens the second you get involved with them. Mm-hmm. No.
Right.
No. Yeah. You've got to live in the messy chaos of their life for a long enough time that they feel comfortable enough telling you and talking to you about these things and actually being receptive to what you have to say about Jesus. Mm-hmm. And generally, try not to say anything.
Right.
Just live the life that you're living, be in the business that you're in, and then uphold the standards of the business to what Christ would say, highest and best use, right? Mm-hmm. And so, to that end, I work really hard to just let the culture speak for itself. I don't have to say much.
Right.
I just say, this is where we withhold. This is where we hold the line. This is where we withhold our values, and this is where we say, you're here, you belong, we're going to listen to you just like you listen to our customers. And man, there's guys love it.
Yeah.
I when I interview and there's guys walking around the shop, I'll be like, don't take my word for it. Go ask him what he thinks.
Yeah.
Go look at our Google reviews. I don't have to talk much.
You don't have to prove anything.
No, but I get passionate. I get so excited. I have to learn to shut up because I'm just like, dude, you're gonna love this company. It's so great. It's awesome. I just talk 1,000 miles an hour, and I'm just like, back up, man. Hold on. Just let them see it.
Yeah.
Let them experience. We had a guy come in the other day, and we were all just kind of wrapping up for the day. And he popped in and just laughed. We were just laughing about funny stuff. We did something where we brought the world's strongest smelling salts into the shop just to try it. And got them all on video, put it on social media. Yeah. I think it's funny. I think it's funny to be self-deprecating and funny. Yeah. I firmly believe that's a way to touch people's hearts.
Absolutely.
And so I thought it would be funny if everybody got to see us all try smelling salts.
Yeah.
And it was hilarious. And people were just commenting and letting me know that they saw it and it was hilarious. And
wow.
So it's just little things like that. They were sitting in the middle of the table, and he kind of said, "What is that?" It's just funny. We just laughed and had a good time.
That's so countercultural. Yeah.
Yeah, we're counterintuitive about just about everything.
Yeah.
Just about everything. Mm-hmm. But again, it goes back to, I can give a monkey a wrench. Mm-hmm. I want to hire for character.
Yep.
But I want to keep developing them. But they don't know they're getting the secret sauce of Jesus with that. So.
Right. Wow. Okay, so maybe we'll wrap up with this. I think you've touched on this. I mean, the whole message of this podcast, I think, is inspirational toward a different ideal of where business people find their place in God's church, in the bride of Christ, in a Jesus-centered community, whatever that looks like. We do hear a lot as business owners, entrepreneurs. I think by default from the stage, maybe the messages that we feel the most oftentimes are, Generosity Sunday, where it's like, your value to us in so many ways. Now, this is not across the board. This is a generalization, but oftentimes I think the subliminal message that you can feel is, my generosity is what matters. I'm out here to make a living, make good money, and then I'm going to funnel that money back to the actual work of the kingdom. Mm-hmm. And it's heartbreaking to me to talk to other guys who say, I'm just a business owner. I basically wasn't spiritually mature enough or didn't have the spirit, whatever it took to be like one of the elites in the kingdom of God. And so therefore I'm just a business owner. What would you say? I mean, obviously, again, I think you've said so much already that answers this question with flying colors. But in that sense, if people just think, if you're talking to another entrepreneur, they're like, I'm just a business owner. I know I just have to make a lot of money, optimize for profit, and I give it back to the church, and that's my contribution. What would you say to kind of broaden their perspective off the top of your head to go, no, there's more here?
Yeah, usually it's just a question of why. You can reverse engineer some of their own, I would say blinders,
sure.
Blind spots. There's a lot out there that probably was ground into them that makes them think that way. And you're actually hitting something very interesting, because I grew up the complete opposite, man. So like, my parents.
Right.
We never even talked about money.
Yeah.
All I knew is we didn't have a lot of money. Vacations were at my grandparents' house. But like the availability they had was time. So much time.
Yeah.
And most things in your life are caught, not taught. And so but money was one of those things that just wasn't talked about. I didn't know a difference between profit and revenue until I looked into starting a business. Honestly, it's embarrassing to say that, but
sure.
I'm not.
So many people's experience.
I'm not astute when it comes to the business side of anything, and so profit became very foreign, and so I had to learn that it's not a bad word. It's okay to make profit. It cannot be the end all be all.
Sure.
And what needs to come first is you living in your community and taking care of people. Specifically, this I look at it. I don't need a church to tell me where to put my money. Institutional church specifically,
Sure.
Right. Like we can talk about that all day, but
we could go.
I know that's a deep subject
We'll
for another time, another day. But when we talk about church, I don't think God mandated that we give everything to the church, but we give to people as they see a need.
Yes.
So I want to make sure that that's a distinction. And if we go that route and we go to that end, like I'm not tithing out of my business to fund the institutional church, right? What I'm doing is saying, I've got a tranche of money, or maybe I don't, but doesn't matter. What's important is what Jesus told me to do. Take care of orphans and widows. For example, there was a widow not long ago, and I'm going to use this example. I'm more of a storyteller than I am about practical things. And then what I want to do is I want to tell the story and let people take from it what they want, especially the entrepreneur struggling with profit and saying like, well, I'm a Christian, but like profit first, like squeeze money, squeeze my people, which no, don't. Right? Like you're going to create a very toxic culture very quickly, and call me if you need help with that. I can fix it. I love that stuff.
Right.
We had a woman, okay? We jumped into a job pretty blind. I'm not going to use any plumbing jargon. She needed a new sewer in her house. She needed new pipes, and they were collapsing. And that means that waste is not going out of the house. It's collecting. She only had a very finite amount of money to fix this problem. And the problem was very great, beyond the scope of what we needed. And so came into this blind, opened up what was going on. We couldn't fix it because everything kept falling apart. So to go further back, it'd fall apart more. Go further back, it'd fall apart more. It's like she needs a whole new sewer line. She needs a pump to push this stuff out of the house. It needs to go somewhere else. Like this is all bad. So I sat down with my guys, the guy who sold it, the guy installing it. I said, she's tapped out. We cannot ask for more money, and I don't think it's right to ask for more money. I said, here's what we're going to do. I said, we've got some opportunities here to help her. I want you to just take your pipe, instead of going under the slab and cutting up more of her floor and costing us more money, costing her way more money than what she can afford. You run it overhead in the basement, put in a pump, push it out this way, have it go in here, and then we use a cast-in-place liner to line the parts that we need to tie into, and then close it all back up and walk away. That was about $15,000 worth of work. And all I said was, just don't worry about it. We found a way to do it at a cheaper cost. We found a way to do it where it only cost us about $2,000, maybe more, a little bit more. We ate a ton on that one, but I knew that that was the right thing to do, and I wanted my guys to see that. I wanted my guys to see it's okay to lose a little bit of money, and in the grand scheme of things, it's literally going to look like pennies when you're, scaling this business to 20, 50 million.
Right.
Who cares?
Right.
Do the right thing. And so I just said, we'll take a loss. Do we need it? No, we're still at we're under 2 million in revenue, dude. Like that hurt. Every little penny counts in these moments.
Right.
But do you trust God more than you need to collect that penny? And if you don't, you need to sit down and have a talk with God. And you need to understand that what's more important is that people in your community see you as a person who cares more about them loves the Lord and would do the right thing over making a profit.
Yeah.
If you're turning a profit just to turn a profit, one, I'm going to swallow you up. I'm going to take all your people because they're sick of doing that.
Right.
I've heard it from their mouths.
Yep.
And so they want a good place to land.
Yep.
You want to give it a good place for them to be. And if they feel unethical about what they're doing, they're not going to stick around even if they're making a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
So to that end, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
If God wants us to work, and if God is a good God, I don't know his plans, but I trust him. And if I trust him that he's going to make it, if he's here to make sure that we have like a life of flourishing, I also do believe that in the right time, like God will make a way for this to work.
Yeah.
If the kingdom is there, if the intention is there, if like the listening and opening this thing in the first place was all there, then yeah, you can probably skimp on a little profit here and there and do the right thing.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. And such a multifaceted view of generosity. Generosity doesn't have to look one way. And that's, I think, the beautiful flexibility of being a business owner as well, wouldn't you say? Like,
right.
You've got a bunch of people who you can choose to be generous. Like you don't. It's not just writing a check to one organization. It's like you are an organization, and you have the opportunity to take this money and funnel it around. Like, say one of your employees has a need, or
that's right.
You really want to treat that employee really well, or you treat all your employees. I've heard you say, you pay above market, or you pay at the very minimum, very fair, but then probably above market, right?
That's right.
For a lot of that in itself, I think, is kingdom generosity in a sense, right? It's putting your people before profits. And, as long as you're not doing it with the ultimate ulterior motive of like, I just want to, like it can get a little murky there in terms of motives and stuff like
That's
that.
Right.
But either any way you slice it, I just think I think it's an underrated opportunity that we have as entrepreneurs to, just be very creative in our giving.
Right.
Be very, just enable that creativity that we use every day in our entrepreneurial ventures, right? But then we get the privilege of being like, okay, let's be creative with our money too.
100%, man.
So
absolutely.
I love where this conversation has gone. We need to come back to it at some point.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna pause there for this episode. But as always, thank you very much for being on the show, and we'll look forward to the next time.
Always, man. Always. Thanks, Andrew.
Absolutely.